Hi, everybody. This has been Yudishin for Unpopular Front. Been a it has been a crazy, just out of this world 24 hours for the Bernie Sanders campaign and for this presidential primary in general. I am really impressed by his debate performance. It was probably the best debate he's had. The last few ones he was actually not that great in. He was fine. He came out once and he had like a frog in his throat, which, as someone who enjoys the sort of grumpy old Jewish guy aesthetic of Bernie, I think that fits. But I also see how that might not be the best look, right? But this debate, he did fantastic, and Elizabeth Warren did pretty good. And it was interesting to see how the race is changing around some of these new sort of established facts. The attacks were more on Warren in general and the sort of targeting of the questions, and from a lot of people, including like little twerps like Pete Buttigieg, not just proving to me that they are absolutely all on the right wing of the party, because they chose so many points around Elizabeth Warren to emphasize, but also I think it ended up helping Bernie more than it helped Pete Buttigieg or folks like that, because it gave Bernie a chance when Elizabeth Warren was pressed on, a thing that I think is a sort of it's not so much an ideological test, right? Because it would be an ideological test if it was about, like, if this policy is good. It was a political test to ask Warren sort of if she'll be honest about the nature of funding Medicare for all and be willing to just say that taxes will go up. Because it's not just that, we need taxes to like pay for the revenue. It's that literally taxes need to go up on the rich so they don't have as much money. And this is a good reason to do it. One of the most, to me, one of the most important things we could do. And this is why, as much as I believe that MMT, I'm sure the science works out. The reason why I'm not all on the MMT train is just that I want to take rich people's money. And Bernie did it. Bernie wasn't afraid. And he said, yeah, taxes will go up. And Warren was asked over and over again and attempted to be cornered. And she did an okay job, but she wasn't conclusive enough. And this is continuing this pattern with her in healthcare, which is a bummer to me because I think she's pretty good on a lot of stuff within the country. Yeah, not outside the borders, but at least within the country. And I think that this again shows, if you want to talk about the difference between democratic socialism and accountable capitalism, this is part of it. It's the class antagonism. It's the being willing to reshape society and reshape some of these expectations and break out of the sort of as politics as usual and some of these things that we have just assumed are laws of gravity around politics. And Bernie being a lot more clear about taxes on Medicare for all is going to help him. It can't hurt him because he already has the reputation as the tax and spend socialist. But it sort of shows these, how Bernie and Sanders are different, and how the sort of, progressive managerial liberalism that Warren represents is, it might have even the right plans, although I actually think her plans aren't expansive enough. But it also shows that there's a method that is guiding some of how they're campaigning and how they're presenting themselves and how they're presenting their vision. And to me, that difference was really on display in that question. Other big things that happened in the debate was Kamala Harris also tried to attack Elizabeth Warren, but around probably the dumbest reason possible. She really wants to be able to ban Trump on Twitter. Just on Twitter. Not even we're going to ban him on Facebook. We're going to ban him on WordPress, folks. Trump, your TikTok account is canceled. But what I don't get is, who is that for? Like, is that for someone who doesn't actually know what Twitter is? Is that for people who like basically only watch cable news? People who don't like get kind of how the internet works? And it was kind of a dismissive, like, it was kind of gross because it was dismissing a much more important issue, which is like tech monopolies and using antitrust laws, which is, I think, would be great. Like, personally, I want Bernie Sanders to win and, like, I don't know, give Elizabeth Warren like the czar position to just like go after these tech companies, you know? And like, I thought that like Kamala Harris obfuscating, you know, people talking about like legitimate tech monopolies that are like, you know, harvesting our information and making money off of us. And, oh, they give us such great things like free apps that continue to harvest our information and make money off of us. It really was, it was pathetic. She is a zero to me. Like, I had this idea that she was like a good performer, but what I realized is she's only sort of, her performance is never really about, you know, this is such a cliche at this point, but it's never really about like the policy and the impacts. It's always about like sort of creating some sort of small, you know, thing, you know, like a little like small story about like directly dealing with one person. And the thing that's bothersome with that is that it's so limited. And it just shows she's just from a different era. And just like, I don't know. I know she hired a lot of like ex-Hillary staffers, and it seems like she hired all the worst ones because she has done zero. Who else was a standout? Andrew Yang made everything about his $1,000, which is, and, you know, listen to my podcast interview about Andrew Yang. Not good. I mean, if you like Yang, he's great, but really, you know, you should support Bernie because he actually could win on like Yang. He has a lot of support and money, and you know, who else was important? Amy Klobuchar sucked. Amy Klobuchar always sucks. Tom Steyer existed. He could have used all the money that he spent to get in that debate, like, to basically, like, buy a state, which maybe should have. You know, like, if you care so much about, like, climate change, dude, maybe spend a little bit more money on, like, building infrastructure instead of doing this raising awareness by, oh, also the guy who gives all the money happens to be the figurehead. It's not exactly, I don't know. Other takeaways from the debate, when I was watching it, my wife just kept on going, who's that lady? Speaking of Erin Burnett, she's like, I do not like her. And you know what? Erin Burnett married to a finance guy, and I remember during Occupy Wall Street, went down and just made fun of them. Now, Occupy, you can absolutely make fun of some aspects of it, but at the time she was doing it, it was like in the middle of it. Like, we didn't even know like what was going to happen yet. Like, it hadn't failed yet, you know? So it was yucky. But yeah, so the main takeaways for the debate was Bernie had the best debate of his career. I really think so. His STENT procedure, like, made him extra powerful or something, because there was an aspect of this that I really loved, in that it's like a great sort of test of like, oh, he's too old, or it was a feat of stamina in a way, kind of, you know, like that story about the guy who like pitched a no-hitter on acid. Like, to me, it kind of felt like that. Like, he shouldn't be here in the state that he's in, but he's better than ever, and I don't know what's going on. And I think the next story really shows that people are believing in him, and that his health is not going to be the issue, and that there's a real organizational heft being built that is going to change. It's going to change the Democratic Party, and it's coalescing in a really important way. So, debate recap done.